to talk about the Winnipeg Jets, to talk about the upcoming World Junior Hockey Championships. Our good friend Craig Button joins us on the program now. Craig, good morning. How are you? Nice to see you again. Happy holidays.
Oh, well, all the same things to you three gentlemen. But I got to tell you, it disappoints me. You know, you take viewership away from TSN when you do your post-game show. Nobody wants to hear what we have to say because they tune it into you guys. So you're cutting my grass, as they say.
No, Craig, that's actually not true, though, because those folks will get a chance to watch you on illegalcurve.com because I always feature your comment on the website. So it's always available for Jets fans to watch.
We never take away viewers from you, Craig. Never.
Yeah. All kidding aside. So how are you guys on this Saturday? We finally got snow in Calgary. I was in Winnipeg last week for the Edmonton and Chicago. I can't believe the weather in Winnipeg. I mean, +2, 3 degrees, no snow. I drove out to Brandon on Friday. I don't think I've ever had a drive to Brandon on a Friday night in December where it wasn't at least -15 or blowing snow.
Well, it's good that you went last Friday and not last night because the snow came last night. So we had
did it? Okay.
Yeah, it finally came.
We got 30 centimeters here. I shoveled their blue snow 3 times yesterday. So.
We did not get 30 centimeters. So you worked a lot harder than we did. We got probably about, I don't know, I'm going to say 4 or 5 centimeters, something that is very manageable. But like it definitely is the grass is finally gone. I missed out on another opportunity to rake my lawn. I'll have to start shoveling it instead of raking it at this point in time, but that's okay. Craig obviously brought you on, talk, as I mentioned, the Jets, talk a little bit about the World Juniors. I mean, you watch the Jets as closely as we do. You see them night in, night out, more or less. You know, at any point over the last number of years, did you ever think that the Jets would be able to be considered an elite defensive team? Because at 5-on-5, they are tied with the Boston Bruins and the Los Angeles Kings for the fewest goals against at 5-on-5. And that's a stat to me that is still, even though I've come to grips with it, it's still to me shocking given all the previous context and all the previous discussions that we've had about the Winnipeg Jets over the last number of years.
Yeah, and we've had those discussions. And, you know, I think that credit has to go to Rick Bowness and his coaching staff. I mean, the improvements were made last year. The market improvements were made last year, and now we're seeing even more improved play in that regard. And certainly the coach, you know, has to instill a system of team play that, you know, has attention to defensive detail, and that certainly was the case last year. A couple of things that I would say this year have pushed it to a higher level. They're deeper in their forward group. They play a lot less in their own zone because they're so good on like playing in the offensive zone. I mean, you watch the game on Thursday night versus Colorado, and that was a big time game by 2 big time teams. And Kevin Sawyer kept talking about just pressing. Rick Bowness said we want to put pressure on them. Well, you can't put pressure on teams if you don't have players you can put pressure on. Mm-hmm. I keep going back to Adam Lowry at the beginning of the season. He said, Pierre-Luc Dubois is better individually than the 3 players we acquired, but we're a better team with the 3 players we acquired. Bigger, faster, stronger, deeper. That's what the Winnipeg Jets are. The template for success in the National Hockey League, when we talk about Stanley Cup, it's there. Whether it be the Vegas Golden Knights, the Colorado Avalanche, the Tampa Bay. And if the reason the Tampa Bay Lightning have fallen off, well, there's no Goodrow, there's no Gourde, there's no Coleman, there's no Palat, there's no Killorn. That's why they've fallen off. They still have the top end guys. It's the reason why I will not have Toronto or Edmonton as a Stanley Cup favorite. They don't have enough depth in their forward group. And so when we watch this team, I think that the depth of the team is really good. The coaching depth. And then I also think that you have players, you know, you've had the opportunity to watch Mark Scheifele since he turned pro. And you're watching Mark Scheifele now being elite two-way center. I mean, he had a shift the other night versus in the offensive zone in the third period where he owned it. He didn't have any points in the game, and I thought that was a complete win by every single player in that lineup for the Jets. But he doesn't need to score now. He's going to score, but he doesn't need to help the team win. And I think that becomes infectious. When your best players – you listen to Mike Modano talk about what it meant for him to be put in those situations by Ken Hitchcock. He said, I resisted it at first, and I realized, wait a sec, I can do more than just score. I think that's where Mark Scheifele finds himself now. And so you have players that are dialed into it. We know Adam Lowry's dialed into it. Nemesnikov, who's out right now, has been really good. But I think you combine those things together, and that's why you're seeing such a strong defense. What is it, 15 straight games with 3 or less goals against? Like
Incredible.
15 straight. Yeah, it is. And they were a little shaky at the beginning. And Connor was a little bit shaky at the beginning, Hellebuck. Now, I mean, he's right back to, I mean, he's elite. I mean, it's funny. Connor Hellebuck and Connor McDavid maybe didn't start out the way that we expect to see them play, but there's no question that they have returned to their, elite level status of play in the National Hockey League.
Craig, by the way, 15 is soon going to be 16 straight games with the Jets Ducks coming up tomorrow night. All due respect to the Ducks, but they're not exactly a powerhouse offensive team. But, we mentioned we want to touch on the 2024 World Juniors with you. And, it doesn't seem like that long ago that we were talking about Cole Perfetti with you prior to the draft. And then after the Jets took Perfetti, speaking of guys that were good World Junior players for Team Canada, right? And based on what you said back then, are you at all surprised? I think I know the answer to this about the way Cole Perfetti is playing this year, because I think you would agree he's opening up a lot of eyes around the NHL, especially outside Winnipeg.
It's interesting. Cole and Quentin Byfield went in the same draft. Alexander Holtz, who got drafted by the New Jersey Devils, they all went in the top 10. And what you're seeing now from all 3 of those players, and I picked out those 3, even Lafreniere, who went first overall. Those 4 players have really now, at the ripe old age of 21, starting to emerge as players of their team. Our society is not patient. And I say that as we're not patient with things. That's just the way we are. We take our phones and we get on our phones. What did I miss? We're anxious to get somewhere fast. We want instant gratification, and it's no different in hockey. And so a player gets drafted high, and there's an expectation that the player's going to get there right away. There's a development path, and players are going to be along different development paths. As long as they're progressing and working at the progression, I think there's every reason to remain confident in the players. But what we're seeing with those 4 players, and specifically now Cole, that's what the projection is. It takes players different timelines to get to where they can become really productive for a team, and it does. Fans expect it, and teams might expect it to a certain degree. Players expect it. So you really got to coalesce around the process of development, and just kind of go, okay, keep working, keep doing it. And what I would say is Cole has arrived, but he hasn't arrived fully. There is still so much room in his game to take his level of play higher. And I think he will take it higher. I don't think there's any question he will take it higher. But when you start with the brain that Cole Perfetti has, he's got a fantastic brain. He's got fantastic hands, and he's a competitor. Those qualities all add up to being able to have success in the National Hockey League. And I think they're on display. And I think for the Winnipeg Jets, again, you got a deeper team, right? You think about Mark Scheifele, the way he's playing. I know Cole's playing some center. They're debating, is he a center, is he wing? But he's insulated now too. He doesn't get put into situations that he can handle. Rick Bowness has opportunities to put him out against players and in situations that he's better capable of handling right now than putting him in over his head. And I think that speaks back to the team being deeper. And certainly Cole is demonstrating why the Winnipeg Jets drafted him, and why people are high on him. And again, just we all need to take a little deep breath at times and be patient with the players. I know I'm not telling any of you something you don't know. You'd be amazed how many times I hear, oh, you're worried about this guy. You're worried, and the World Junior's coming up. And a player will go to that tournament and go, oh, geez, that guy didn't play very good. Are you concerned? Am I concerned? No, I'm not concerned. It's a best on best tournament. This is a top level tournament. And sometimes players get in there. They're a little bit green. They're a little bit wide eyed. And I've seen players come in a tournament that, if they're 18 and play, then the next year they come back and they're dominant. But we want to make quick judgments. And I would just say to everybody, just watch for progression, for progression, and go from there.
You know, Craig, one of the things we talked about, if we were having this conversation in the summer, was the uncertainty surrounding the Winnipeg Jets. Then they signed Connor Hellebuck and Mark Scheifele, and it seems like things are established. Then on Monday, they signed Nino Niederreiter, and we're talking about the culture. And Rick Bowness has talked about that quite a bit, changing the culture both on and off the ice. We talked about the on-ice performance here, but a guy like Nino Niederreiter, getting that 3-year deal, getting that permanence, when you hear him talk, I mean, it was an optional at Hockey for All Center on Tuesday. I'm there. There's not a lot of players, media or players, but the fact is the reality was he was on the ice with a lot of the guys who are the fourth liners, the scratches. He's there. He's working, even though he just signed a 3-year deal. What are the Jets getting in a guy like that who brings that both on and off culture to the room?
I'm going to answer your question before I get on my rant. And it doesn't take me long to get on a rant. So, but your question, I want to answer that. You know, Nino is a really well-rounded player. And I think when I use the word well-rounded, he's a really good skater. He's a competitor. He's got size. He can put points up on the board. You know, he can be I talk about playing like in the offensive zone and wearing out an opponent. Kevin Sawyer used the term on Thursday night. He said the fourth line has been full value. So let me define, and I did it on the broad. I said, here's what full value means. It means that when you go out on the ice, it's not an easy shift for the opponent. The opponent is sitting on their bench going, wow, I have no chance to rest, mentally or physically, because it's going to be a challenge. So that third line now with Nino and Adam and Mason, I mean, that's an outstanding third line in the National Hockey League. That's one of the very best third lines, in my view, in the National Hockey League. And so Nino can do so many things in the game. I mean, the pace that he plays. I said bigger, faster, stronger, deeper. Nino added when they traded for him last year. Obviously, the three Kings players added that. And now you're wearing out opponents. And Nino is a player that is no fun to play against, because he's not a player that's going to what I would say punish you in with respect to, but he leans on you. He's heavy. My dear late friend Brad McCrimmon said he hated playing against players that just leaned on you, because he goes, it was just a constant. It was like you're trying to shed this weight and you can't do it. And that's to me what Nino does. And yes, he's got skill, and yes, he's got some. So what he is, and I think the contract's fantastic for the Winnipeg Jets and for Nino Niederreiter. But I think that those types of players become really valuable. I will say this. I mean, I think now Kevin probably is turning his attention to number 2 and number 5, because I think they've been really valuable, Dylan DeMello and Brendan Dillon, to this team. And, you know, as pending unrestricted free agents, as you're trying to build that culture. Now, you know, my little rant is about, and we heard this across players don't want to stay in Canada. Players don't want to stay in Canada. Players don't want to stay in Canada. Well, Kevin Cheveldayoff certainly has dispelled that notion, and the Winnipeg Jets have certainly dispelled that notion, with Connor Hellebuck committing long-term, Mark Scheifele committing long-term, Nino Niederreiter committing long-term. You know, we already saw Kyle Connor committing long-term, and you know, and you look at an environment, you look at culture, and Nino talked about it. He goes, I look around here, I come here, he played last year. He sees Scheifele and Hellebuck committing. And he says, we got a good team. I want to be here. Create a good team. Be in an environment where players can feel valued. I don't think there's enough credit given to Rick Bowness and his coaching staff for valuing players. You know, we all remember the end of the season last year and how frustrated Rick was, and some blowback. But Rick values his players. And I think that there's no way players are not going to sign long-term, knowing Rick Bowness is the coach, without having that belief. And I think they do. And Kevin Cheveldayoff, and I love Kevin. I really do. I mean, he's a longtime friend, and I have great respect for him. But, you know, when he believed in the group heading into last season, I think that was important. He thought we could take steps forward. But when he realized that, no, I got to change the group, he did. And I know as a manager, sometimes, why didn't you do this? Why don't you do that? Why haven't you done that? But like, the first step was, I think the group can do it. And having belief in a group sometimes is important. And then you get another answer. Kevin got another answer, and he said, I got to change it. And he did. And kudos to him, because I think the environment and the culture with the Winnipeg Jets has been really, 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 really good. And listen, they got some really good young players in the system that are going to emerge here in the next 12, 18, 24 months that are just going to add to this group, because this is not a group that's old or aging out. This is a group that is really moving up as a real strong team in the National Hockey League.
Craig, you talk about, players moving up, the team moving up. Dylan Samberg has just continued to take strides on the back end for the Winnipeg Jets. As he continues to develop, because really still only his second full season, as he continues to develop, what's the next step in his development from your perspective? I mean, his underlying numbers this year, particularly defensively, have been absolutely tremendous. Some of the best defensive metrics, in the NHL for on the back end. What do you see as his next sort of level, the next ladder, the next rung on the ladder for him to achieve?
He's got to get his sexiness up, because that's where people will start to notice. He's got to start doing toe drags and dangling so everybody can see how good he is.
Tongue firmly in cheek.
He's from Hermantown, Minnesota. I mean, he won championships at the Lake there. He won championships at UMD. Dylan is a winner. When you watch Dylan play, and this is just my statement on Dylan, because I love the way Dylan plays. And you want him on your team. You don't want to play against him. You want him on your team, because he's all in. He's all in for winning. He's in it to win it. And Dylan delivers. He's a competitor. And to your point, Drew, he is now a player that, like, what he gives you is incredibly important to success. And certainly that. And I think what you're seeing with Dylan, it's not so much what more he needs to do. I think you're seeing him be more confident, being a little bit more patient with the puck. He's not looking to just get rid of the puck. He's the game on Thursday, and just a little sidebar here. How many times do we hear the term play fast? We hear it all the time, right? If people want to know what playing fast is, watch that game on Thursday night, because it was played fast from a physical point of view, a mental point of view, an offensive point of view, a defensive point of view. There was times in that game, and when you watch players in that type of an environment where you got to think just as fast as you move, a lot of times just get rid of the puck. I counted the times that Dylan just settled, came up the ice, made a nice little pass, and away they went. That's a player that's settling in, confident with the speed in the game. And I don't think he's ever going to be a big offensive player, but I think much like Brendan Dillon has become a real significant presence on the blue line through his own play, and I think that's a really good mentor for Dylan. That's what I expect Dylan to continue to evolve. Just that rock solid, this is who I am, this is what you're going to get, and you're never going to come, and I'm never going to give you anything less than that. That's what I think we're seeing that. Again, talking about progression, that's what we're seeing with Dylan. But there's a lot of teams that can use a Dylan Samberg and a Brendan Dillon. And I'm talking about teams that think they're Stanley Cup contenders. Like, give me a break.
Craig Button, our guest on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show on this Saturday morning. Craig, thank you for the answers. I'm going to depart. Dave and Ezzy are going to take it from here. I got a family obligation I got to run to. But it is always great to see you, and we always appreciate your time and everything else. So Dave and Ezzy will drive this bus home for the next 10 or so minutes or so.
Thanks, Drew. And enjoy the time with your family.
Thank you, Craig.
Okay, so Craig, now that we've got rid of the dead weight, we can transition over to the 2024 World Junior Hockey Championship, and which obviously Team Canada's, as you know, the national junior team selection camp begins tomorrow in Oakville. As you know, I do communications for Hockey Manitoba, so got to give a shout out to Connor Geeky of Strathclair, Denton Matejchuk of Dominion City. They're obviously going to be participating. And the question I wanted to ask you was just with 2.5 weeks to go before Team Canada's first game, what is your outlook? Because we know Owen Beck is the only returning player. Obviously, Canada is always going to be a favorite at the World Junior. So what's kind of standing to you when Junior Selection Camp gets underway tomorrow about this team?
A couple of things a couple of things stand out. one of the things is the way the tournament is set up now. It's really imperative that a team gets better as the tournament goes on, and I think that has become a full realization for all countries participating. And no, you want to win every game, but it's about the progression. Canada lost their first game last year to Czechia on opening day. And again, I talk about players and everything, Chicken Little, the sky's falling. Oh, can you believe? Oh, what are they going to do? Oh, my Lord. Listen, I've seen it now, and I've seen it from a lot of different countries. Build. So that's number one for Hockey Canada with this group. There's no Connor Bedard there. There just isn't. Joshua Waugh, an exceptional offensive player. Dylan Gunther, they're just not there. So what they're going to have is a different type of team, and they're going to be long and competitive defensively on the blue line. I mean, they got some really good, big, strong players. Dent Matejchuk is going to run the power play just like Olin Zellweger ran it, and I think that that becomes really important for that part of the game. But they're going to be big in the middle of the ice. Obviously they have some skill in some of their forwards, but they want to be bigger on the walls than smaller. The skilled guys are going to play in the top part of the thing, and then they're going to be big and hard to play against. We talk about top six, bottom six. It's going to be a top nine, and they want to have a really hard fourth line. A hard fourth line that go like a Morgan Barron, David Gustafson, that type of a fourth line, that goes out there and grinds you and makes life really, really difficult for you. And, Axel has come in and played really well in the absence of Rasmus Kupari, and, he's been really good with his speed. But they want to have a hard fourth line, not a top nine and the fourth line goes out there. They want that fourth line to go out and really be hard to play against. The goaltending might be a little bit unknown, but that's not the first time Canada's gone into a tournament with what I would consider unknown goaltending. It's known to them, and Mathis Rousseau is a really good goaltender in Halifax. Joel Hoffer, there's a Manitoba shout out again. Let's not forget in 2020 that him and Dawes came into they weren't well known. Dawes got the start in that tournament. Again, Canada lost, and then Hoffer took it over right to the gold medal. They have really good, dependable goaltending. They really do. And Dominic DeCivicentis, Winnipeg Jets draft pick, to me, Rousseau and Dom are going to be the two goaltenders. That's a good spot. They've both been really good. And I think that the team can rely on steady, consistent, mature goaltending. The blue line's going to be longer and hard to play against. They're going to defend the middle of the ice. Everybody talks about the big ice. No. The big ice, you don't have to worry about outside the dots. Go play out there. It's like going on Lake Manitoba. Go out there. I don't care where you are. Here's our net. Here's the front of the net, and we're going to defend this hard. And that's don't buy into any of this big ice stuff. You got to play inside the dots. And these players are going to defend hard inside the dots. They're going to attack inside the dots offensively. I think USA and Sweden start off the tournament as co-favorites. They've won the last two U18 championships. They both played in the championship game of the U18. Sweden beating USA in 2022 and USA beating Sweden in 2023. So their mature teams are good teams. You're right. Canada will always be competitive. And I think that there's a lot of confidence in the group. And one of the things that I think becomes really important for Team Canada is being encouraged to be who you are. You're not going to be last year's team. And I think Alan Letang and the management group are going to really emphasize that with the play and let them be their own, have their own identity in their own group. And I listen, they're going to be playing on the fourth in a semifinal. I have no doubt about that. And I think that from there, that's where you hope your game is in order, and let's go.
Well, hopefully we'll be listening. I believe Dennis is doing the broadcast again, so hopefully we'll be hearing our friend Dennis Bayak making the call. Always iconic.
You'll be hearing him. You'll be hearing him.
Always iconic when we get to hear the pride of Winnipegosis, Craig. He may live in BC now, but he's always going to be the pride of Winnipegosis. But, usually there's a lot of excitement for Jets fans. They get a chance to watch prospects in the World Junior, and this year they won't have that same level because Colby Barlow obviously dealing with some injuries, so he wasn't an invite. Wagner McGroarty, he obviously has that injury he sustained in the game for Michigan. I know he was invited to the U.S. camp, but we'll see if he's going to be ready to go. What about Elias Salomonsson and Fabian Wagner? Those are the two guys who are going to be playing for Sweden. Salomonsson's an interesting character because I wasn't expecting him to be back in Winnipeg for training camp. And then he was here in training camp and he was staying. Then suddenly he was on the Moose. They eventually sent him back to Schlefka. But to me, he's the guy who a lot of Jets fans are excited because we talk about depth in the organization and that right side defensively. He's kind of like that prized, the Ville Heinola of the right side right now, Craig.
He's a big time competitor. He's a big time competitor. You know, you look at that Swedish blue line, you know, they have a really competitive group back there. You know, Tommy Wilander, who was Vancouver's first round draft pick, Salomonsson, like this isn't a freewheeling skate up they can do that, but they compete hard defensively. They compete. You got to be a hard defender. And that's what Salomonsson is. And Salomonsson's going to play in the National Hockey League. I know watching him, you're looking at different parts of his game. And you're going, okay, he has just gone this way. He's gone right nicely in that progression, as I talked about. I believe he will be an NHL player, a regular NHL player. But good, hard defending and not hesitant to jump in the attack. You know, if I had to use just kind of a Winnipeg Jets comparable, you think about when they acquired Dylan DeMello. So Dylan, okay, what type of defenseman is he? Okay, 4-5, right? Well, you watch Dylan play now. Dylan's not afraid to jump into the attack. He competes hard. He plays like in the defensive zone, and that's how Salomonsson plays. He plays that kind of style of game, and he'll be really good. Fabian Wagner is going to be a really important part of this team. He was part of the team that won the gold medal to U18. He returns. He knows what the tournament's about. And I think that, he's quick, he's fast, he can, and again, we talk about depth in your lineup. That's what the Swedes have. They have lots of depth to their lineup. And it allows Fabian to get in there and contribute offensively. And, I'll just finish with Rector. And I have a man crush on Rector, just like I have a man crush on Colby. And Colby would be on the team if he hadn't run into the injuries. Rector will be the captain of USA. If he's able to play, and maybe they should just have him there anyway to be the captain because his leadership is unbelievable and his spirit is infectious. So I know they're really, and it might be a case. It really might be a case where he goes over there. Maybe he doesn't play the first couple of games, as he tries to ramp up if the injury is progressing in a manner that's satisfactory to everybody, Jets included. Jets are a part of this evaluation with Wagner McGroarty, as they should be. University of Michigan, obviously, but don't be surprised if he's making that progress that maybe he doesn't play game 1 or 2, but they're getting him ramped up to come back, a little bit later in the tournament.
Well, Craig, you might have a man crush on Barlow and Wagner McGroarty, but we have a man crush on you, and we always appreciate.
And your spirit is also infectious, Craig.
Thanks, Ezra. I really appreciate that.
Well, we always appreciate whenever you can join us on a Saturday morning. And you know what, Craig, I actually meant to ask you when you were in the press box, but I didn't want to interrupt you because I knew you're doing TSN stuff. I was like, you're welcome to join us on a post-game show anytime you want. If you're here in Winnipeg or anytime, really, you can always join us for a chat for the post-game show.
You're never interrupting me. Just honestly, like I'm up there, listen, Freddie Maslachuk, who's just a wonderful person. A lot of times he's dragging me. Craig, we need you here in 3 minutes. We need you here. So don't worry about that. Like you always do that. And so I'll finish with this, wishing everybody, best of the holiday season and certainly a prosperous new year. But Ezra, my question's for you. Where's Shohei's plane going to land?
Yeah. I was joking that I'm the biggest Blue Jays fan ever wearing this hat. I'm obviously a bit of a bandwagon Fairweather fan, but I just found out recently that actually wasn't Shohei's plane. So it's pretty funny. Hassan Remus had the flight path up on Winnipeg Sports Talk yesterday. It's pretty funny, but I think you'd agree, Craig, that this is the biggest signing in Canadian sports history. I think Twitter almost blew up yesterday.
Is he going to sign though?
It looks like he is. I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't follow it as much as others, but I mean, it seems like the reports are coming out that he's going to sign. But yeah, I guess it's not really done until it's done, right?
Hey, listen, I think it would be the Blue Jays are Canada's team, and sign in Ohtani would be unbelievable. You're right. It might be as big as Henderson in '72.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, anytime we can have you on, Craig, we always appreciate it. So thank you for spending part of your Saturday morning with us. We really appreciate your time and your insight.
Thanks so much, Craig.
Okay, thanks, guys. Yeah, take care.
Okay, there he goes. That's Craig Button, of course, of TSN, knows pretty much everything there is about the Jets and Jets prospects, and that's why we love having him on, because he's a great guest, but he's always provides tons of insight.